G'day folks, welcome back to Assault on Gallipoli. What I have here is the setup for Scenario 2, the Turkish Counter-Attack. This took place on the 19th of May 1915. This is of course the playtest, box art and components. The final box design and scenario details may be a little different to what you see here. But this is now available for pre-order, so check out the details in the link in the description below. Absolutely loving this game, and a lot of depth, really a lot of replayability, a lot of tactical and sort of operational learning to work through every time you play it. This scenario 2, the Turkish Counter-Attack of the 19th of May 1915, reflects that Ottoman counterattack on the sort of early hours of the morning, 3, 4, 5 a.m, continuing throughout the day. It was a big Ottoman attempt to break through the Allied lines, principally around the second ridge here, and push through to Anzac Cove. They were trying to drive the Anzac forces principally into the sea. They attacked in 4 separate sections, 4 separate points. They experienced the most success in this area here. Now on this map it's called Quinn's Post. It's one of the most famous locations, but this geographical area actually comprises several different positions, including Courtney's Post, which is just slightly to the south of Quinn's Post. And it was at Courtney's Post where the Ottomans experienced the most success and had probably the greatest opportunity to succeed on this day, and this terrified Allied command. Courtney's Post at the time was being very lightly held, or the part of Courtney's Post that the Ottoman forces attacked was being very lightly held by just a single Australian section. That section was defeated, some of the men escaped and withdrew. The Ottomans captured the western edge of that ridge, and from that position were able to shoot down into Monash Valley beyond. Monash Valley was the main supply route through to the valley leading up to Quinn's and Courtney's from the western edge, from the beaches, very close to Anzac Cove, as you can see here. So a huge threat to the Allied positions. Had Ottoman forces continued with this breakout down Courtney's Post, or perhaps along the ridge, they could have rolled up the entire Allied position, particularly in the south around that second ridge. Ultimately, due to a lack of coordination, they failed and they were forced back out of those positions. But yeah, for that morning of the attack, it was very scary for Allied command, and ultimately a defeat for the Ottoman forces. The Ottomans suffered, it's estimated, about 10,000 casualties during this counterattack, including 3,000 dead. Many of them around Lone Pine and the southern sort of section of the ridge, where their attacks were beaten back pretty early. But because of their heavy casualties, incidentally, the Allied forces suffered under 1,000 casualties on the day, and this really revealed. It reinforced, I suppose, the value of defensive positions, obviously of entrenchments. This is coming, of course, less than 4 weeks after the initial landing. The trenches were still being constructed throughout late April, throughout May. This whole region was a non-stop activity of digging, both above ground and underground. And so, the trenches were being deepened, widened, and extended in all directions. Saps were being pushed out into no man's land, and improvements being made. So they were still kind of, by 19th of May, still very much in development. But valuable lessons were learnt about their importance. Also of machine guns as well. So the Australians had machine guns in their defensive lines, and they were critical. After the battle, with all these Ottoman casualties, this culminated in one of the most famous events, not only of the Gallipoli campaign, but of the First World War, and that's the truce of late May 1915, when Allied forces and Ottoman forces declared a truce to come out into no man's land and bury the thousands of dead that lay along this ridge. And it's really quite a remarkable moment in the First World War history, where both sides had the opportunity to sort of meet each other face to face, shake hands, exchange souvenirs and food and items and the like. And there are really some remarkable stories in the diaries and letters of Australian soldiers who served on Gallipoli during this period. It kind of, principally, it gave a face to the enemy. Up to this point, these men had kept their heads down, and aside from maybe the first day or two, 25th, 26th of April, they hadn't really seen many Ottoman forces. I will point out they can often see Ottoman forces way up on the heights, but, rarely. And so the truce, they actually got to meet their enemy face to face, and it really transformed Australian feelings about their enemy. They became human. They became real, and it led to the fostering of a mutual respect, which was sustained not only through the campaign, through the war, but I'd argue also to this day. It's one of the key reasons why, I attribute the truce as a key factor in the development of those sort of the sense of goodwill between Australians, New Zealanders, and Turks. You notice I keep using this language of Turks and Ottoman forces. So technically, we're dealing with Ottoman forces here. A lot of them certainly came from the area, modern-day Republic of Turkey, but the Ottoman Empire drew on men from across their empire, including largely during the Gallipoli campaign, men from they're the guards. Men from Syria. Where are the Syrians? They are up here, of course, in Bear. So here we have the 72nd Syrian Regiment. A lot of men conscripted, of course, from the Arabian Peninsula within the realm of the Ottoman Empire. So, I often prefer to use that word Ottoman, just to be technically correct, but of course the Australians command, a lot of the histories do refer to the Turks generally. So yes, the Ottomans are trying to break through this second ridgeline and push the Australians and the Anzacs into the beach. The Australians tended to hold the southern half of this line. New Zealand is up here. You've got some Indian artillery, scattering of British forces through here as well, but mainly the attacks fell on the Australian forces along this second ridge here: Quinn's Post, Courtney's Post, Johnson's Jolly, Lone Pine, and of course, it was a failure, horrific casualties, but very close. Well, I'd say very close to succeeding. So this scenario gives you the opportunity to replay, reenact, simulate that attack. It's only a 3-turn scenario, but this is how far the Australians are from the beach. They had a roughly 5 kilometre perimeter around their positions. They were about a mile from the beach. There's not a lot of space there for them to give. If the Ottoman forces can break through, they could very quickly win this campaign. 10 objectives to capture. At the end of the scenario, the player with the most objective points wins. If at any point the Allies lose Anzac Cove, they lose at the end of a turn, or if the Ottoman forces lose Maltepe, they'll lose at the end of a turn as well. Now I mentioned the Ottoman forces captured Courtney's Post here, and they could shoot down into Monash Valley, the main supply route through to these positions. You'll note the red impassable line here. Now, that this is normally impassable, so the main route was to come up through Lone Pine and follow the ridge. Historically, of course, men did climb. There were routes up the back of these hills, but if anyone's been to Gallipoli, you'll know this is not quite a perpendicular cliff, but very steep. I have walked up the back of Quinn's Post and Courtney's Post. Very loose terrain, very difficult to climb up here. Not something you'd easily do. And so having captured the western edge of Courtney's post, they're almost facing almost perpendicular line or trail down to Monash Valley, with, of course, Australian forces on Pluggy's Plateau over here and further north on Russell's Top, which were able to shoot into those positions. I think I've spoken about Quinn's Post before. There's a wonderful book by Peter Stanley who covers the history of just Quinn's Post during 1915. It was throughout the campaign enfiladed by Ottoman forces on the heights beyond. The Ottoman forces on the attack, the Anzac Allied forces holding their defensive positions, trying to prevent the Ottomans from breaking through. These are, it's probably hard to tell, but these are very well held positions. You can see the density of that stack there. We've got in Quinn's Post, Courtney's Post here, Colonel Monash, a colonel at the time. He went on, of course, to lead the Australian Corps, and with immense success in 1918 in particular. Machine gun, 14th Battalion Victoria, 15th Battalion Queensland, 16th Battalion Western Australia, 13th Battalion New South Wales with wire and a -2 deep trench. So formidable defensive position, but you can see the Ottoman forces lined up on the other side, the eastern side of Second Ridge there, ready to strike. A lot of artillery, and then they're positioned along, again, these are big stacks of Ottoman forces, typically an entire regiment, 3 units in each, with their artillery, with their machine guns, ready to reinforce and drive into any possible breakthrough. You've still got Gaba Tepe down here in the south. You've got Shark Bear up there in the north. I don't think it's likely that we'll see any Australian counterattack if things get desperate and they're really desperate to recapture. We'll see what happens. I think this will be mainly defensive position in the south, mainly defensive up there. Okay. Well, with that lengthy intro out of the way, what else can I put? Oh, I'll also talk about action cards. So the Anzacs have 4 action cards, including Aerial Recon and Heroic Act, and 2 random cards, which I haven't had a look at yet. The Ottoman forces have 5. They have the Morale Advantage, including Underground Mine, and 4 other cards, which I haven't looked at yet. Okay, so ready to go. I've drawn my action cards. Ships have been placed in the seas. I've gone for more of a southern position here. Why is that? Because these ships, I think I found that they can make best use of their range in these southern areas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can kind of reach Third Ridge from here. If they're up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they can still reach Third Ridge, I guess, but I don't know. I just like the southern sea zones a little bit better. Okay, Ottoman turn first. What are we going to do? It kind of makes sense to attempt to soften up these Anzac positions with a bit of artillery and see where we can get some damage done. The question now is, where did I put... There's 1 artillery piece there. These guys are out of range, but the artillery can strike. So let's put Kamal back up there and let's fire with this Ottoman artillery from Truck Bear down onto the Australians. Where do we want to strike? Wow. Let's think about strategy. Let's think about tactics here. How do I get this done? You can see in Monash Valley, on McKay's Hill, and beyond to Brighton Beach, Anzac Cove, a defence in depth, a little bit lighter in the north. This is Happy Valley and Walker's Ridge, Russell's Top here. It does look at a glance as though the New Zealand positions look a little more lightly defended. I wonder, what I might do is take my camera off the mount and bring it down to give you a closer perspective on things so you can see these stacks. And then to avoid the glare, I'll open some curtains. And close them all. Okay, hopefully that will enable you to see the density of these stacks and give you a sense of what I'm kind of thinking. You can see in the north, it kind of looks, I mean, there's a whole western edge of the map here, but this is where all the fighting will be, along this second ridge where the Ottoman forces will be attacking into. I'm going to bring the map a little bit closer still and pan down a bit. Okay. So, what I'm kind of thinking is making Russell's top maybe priority, and of course Quinn's post. And when I say priority, of course, historically they attacked all along the line, but I'm going to just see if I can soften up Russell's top first. With my artillery, I get 4 dice. In fact, before I do anything, let's have a look at the cards I've got. Underground Mine. Reduce an enemy deep trench to a shallow trench, or remove a shallow trench. I'll read these out rather than showing you. So that's just basically reducing trenches. That's great to use. Supply Convoy. Move the killing time marker back by 2. Courage Under Fire. Ignore a damage point or use as a bayonet charge. That could be good for close combat. Keep Moving. Activate a fresh unit. That could be good if I get an exploitation. And Aerial Recon. Increase the range of my artillery or add 1 firepower to each die roll for any units attacking an area. I like that +1 firepower to any units attacking an area. That could be really good as well. So artillery, first strike, Russell's top, 1, 2, 3 away. So I get 4 dice. Looking at, I think 4 or less. I'm not at maximum range. Just going to get my summary sheets out. 4 or less. It's not long range. It's not uphill. They don't contain woods. They are, however, I'm pretty sure these guys are in deep trenches. Yeah, deep trenches. So we're looking here at now 2 or less on 4 dice. I got 1 hit and a killing time. So 1 hit on these New Zealanders here. Well, look, they're going to have to take a hit on one of their units. They'll just reduce them. That's not too bad. Now what have we got here? I'll just show you what the New Zealanders have in this position. They've got 2 machine guns, Auckland and Colonel Russell. So that's, again, kind of what I'm talking about. It looks to be a bit of a vulnerable position. A small start, just testing the waters for that initial Ottoman bombardment. How are the Allies going to respond now? Well, let's look at their cards. Heroic Act, I can flip an exhausted unit, so I could flip that unit straight back over. Aerial Recon, which is great. Coordinated Attack, I can fire with units from multiple areas into one target. That could be good for a counter-attack. Fight to the death, ignore 2 damage points, or can be used in place of any close combat card. Also could be good for close combat, because we know they're going to be coming. And I see, this is where, I spoke about it in my last video. Let's say I activate this unit here in Quinn's Post, and I fire. All these units then become exhausted. When the Ottomans counterattack, they are twice as vulnerable as they currently are. So you kind of really, I love how you're thinking about the order of activations here. What formation do I want to activate first? And I think the key lesson is to activate the boats, because they're not holding any position of strategic importance, and they have huge firepower. So let's get all 10, actually, yeah, 10 of these, and we'll do a +1 to hit. So we're looking at 10, and who are we going to hit? Let's hit the Ottoman forces right here in the chessboard. Sorry. Historically named by the Allied forces because the pattern of the trenches kind of looked like a chessboard from a distance. Some wonderful area photographs of the chessboard to give you an example of that if you want to check it out. So I've got 10 dice now. I'll roll them 5 at a time, and I'll find my die roller so the dice don't go everywhere. When I say my die roller, I mean my tray. 5 dice. We're looking at 4 or less, plus 1 is 5 or less. But these Ottoman forces are, I believe, in a -2 trench, so we're down to 3 or less. And it's uphill, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, you know what? I might change that to these guys here in Wire Gully. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're not at long range, but we are uphill, and they are in a trench. -2. So 5 or less to hit on 10 dice becomes 3 or less because of the trench, 2 or less because of uphill, and that's it. 2 or less on 10 dice. 1, 2. Two hits and a killing time. That's not great, but it'll just soften up these Ottoman forces just a little bit. I'm going to just reduce 2 of these regiments here, like so. And put them back. So that just softens up those Ottoman forces before they can advance. Okay, back now to the Ottomans. And again, I want to look for my artillery. Trying to figure out where it all starts. There's machine gun, out of range. Some guards reserves. Here we go. I've got an artillery piece here. They'll have a shot. So 4 dice. I think I'm going to hit the New Zealanders again and see what I can do. So 4 dice, -2 for the trench, same elevation. 1, 2, 3, 4, long range. 1, 2, 3. You know what? I'm going to target these guys instead, because that avoids the long range penalty. 1, 2. Oh no, it doesn't. I can go 1, 2, 3. So 4 or less. Yeah. 4 or less becomes 2 or less on 4 dice. Nothing but a killing time. Gee, the turn is 3 killing times now. So we're moving through the turns pretty quickly. Incidentally, for those who haven't seen a previous video, the killing time marker up in the top right there, that little skull, it's kind of it moves down every time you roll a 10, and once it reaches 0, the turn instantly ends. So you can never quite, well, you can kind of get a sense of the end of the turn may be approaching, but it can end quite suddenly. Back to the Allied forces, and they're going to fire with their last 2 ships. We've got a 7 dice here at a range of 5. And who are they going to target? Okay, let's have a look. From here, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll fire at this group here on the chessboard again. -2, uphill. Is this a 1 to hit? Yeah, let's see what they can do. 1 to hit. No hits. Okay, we tried. This is what happens when you entrench. Again, the lesson here: deep trenches helps protect your units. A valuable lesson. Okay, back to the Ottoman forces. Not quite ready to move in yet. We still want to be trying to soften up these defences. Let's find some more artillery. Machine gun range of 3, 1, 2. They can shoot into there. So 3 dice. And I wonder if I should, use my use my mine to reduce this trench. No, I'm going to save it for later. See, I could reduce the trench now, which would help with this, but I'll wait and see where. Or do I? Do I just throw it in? Yeah, I'll throw it in. I should have done this earlier. I'm going to use my underground mine to reduce their deep trench to a shallow trench. And it's adjacent to friendly units. So their deep trench on Russell's top becomes a shallow trench. So it's only a -1 modifier. Should have done that earlier, but I didn't. So 3 dice now, needing 3 or less. 4 -1, another killing time, and a hit. So that will reduce another New Zealand unit. I'm going to have to reduce the machine guns now. Actually, you know what? I'm going to keep the machine guns at strength and eliminate the Auckland regiment. So that position there, getting a bit softer and quite vulnerable. And what do we do now? How do we respond? Again, keep in mind there's 2 massive stacks of Ottoman forces here. Is it too early to start moving reserves up? Do I try and fire with some machine guns? Howitzers, 2 artillery pieces here. Look at that. That's 10 dice. No, sorry. That's 9 dice. 9 dice back here. I think I'll do that. So I'll throw these 2 howitzers in. I'll have to roll 1 extra dice. So 9 dice now. Gonna shoot at what? Let's see what we've got here. We don't have underground mine. I could use aerial recon to add firepower for any units attacking an area. Yeah, let's throw some aerial recon for a +1 effect. So it'll be uphill as well. So 4 + 1 is 5. -2 for the trench is 3. -1 for uphill is 2 or less. And the Ottoman forces must randomly discard a card. They lose their supply convoy. Alright, 9 dice, 2 or less. We need to soften up these Ottoman forces before they can launch an attack on Russell's top. 2 or less. 1 hit, and I get 1 more die roll. 1 hit. It's not really going to do much, I don't think. It'll reduce 1 unit to their exhausted side, but there's still a strong force of Ottomans in this area. They're not ready to attack yet, though. I gotta say, there's still 2 machine guns in this area, which can launch a withering defensive fire if the Ottomans were to push into that area right now. I still think I want to try to soften up this area. Do I have any machine guns that can reach? 1 to no. Yes, there's a machine gun. Right, so machine gun right next to them. 3 dice. Let's check my cards again. Just keep consulting. What have I got? No, it's not worth using aerial recon for that. 3 dice, right next door, -1. So 3 hitting on a 4 or less. 1 hit. Ooh, that's going to reduce machine gun now. So now the New Zealanders and Russell's top are in a bit of trouble. And I think they've got to reinforce this position. They can bring the Australians up here. We've got 1, 2, 3. Or do we move it up from Walker's Ridge? I don't know. Yeah, I think we'll move at least 2 of these Australian units up. They will become reduced, but it gives some defensive benefit So we're just going to move in here, and they'll make an advancing fire. So 2 dice, up the hill, into the chessboard. So we're looking at 1, hitting on 1 or less. No, that's nothing. But they've kind of reinforcing that position against a possible Ottoman counterattack. Okay, back to the Ottoman turn, and yeah, they are softening up this area. Do we have machine guns? We do have another machine gun here, so I could keep firing. Another machine gun here. I'm going to throw this machine gun also into Russell's top. So 3 more dice, -1, 3 or less. Oh, so close. 1 hit. Oh, now we're in trouble. Do I reduce that other machine gun or eliminate one of these Australian units? I'm thinking I'm going to have to eliminate a unit because I want to keep the machine guns at strength. There's the machine gun, strength of 3. Once they're reduced, they go down to 0. 0 firepower. So yep, we'll kill off some Australians. Sorry guys. And need to think now about what else to do on Russell's top. I can use a heroic act to flip a unit to its fresh side. Do I use this now? Given the Ottomans are throwing everything at Russell's top, killing time markers, yeah, coming down. We really want the turn to end. When you're defending, you want the turn to end as quickly as possible. So I could flip the machine gun or a unit over to its fresh side. It's not much though, they're not big units, they're just these reserves. Maybe a bit of holding off on that. And maybe I shift a battalion from Queen's Post over. Or this 1st Brigade unit, 2nd Battalion New South Wales. They're a bit of a stronger unit. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'll do that. That's all I'm doing, just shifting 1 battalion over. They retain a strength of 2 on their reduced side. So not a big move, but trying to hold Russell's top. Okay, what now? What next? What next? What next? What next? Back to the Ottoman forces. So they've got machine guns and artillery down here. Let's just have a go. See, the Ottomans, they need to be efficient. Noting the speed with which the killing time marker is going down. Another artillery piece here. They've really got to push. Do I make the move? What I might do is big firepower. Let's bring out all these regiments. 2, 3, 4. 4, that's not a lot. 4 with a +1 against Russell's top. It does make them vulnerable to a counterattack. I'll take the risk. 4 men shooting to Russell's top. +1, -1 for the shallow trench is 4 or less. Nothing. Nothing's not going well for the Ottoman forces. Right, folks, going to have to wrap it up here. I will continue this soon. Already an anxious start to this this scenario. 19th of May, 1915. Folks, thanks for watching. I'll continue this at a later stage.